Hello and welcome to Amash, another of our interviews here in Hounslow with our lovely Miles. Thank you very much, Miles, for hosting this one. We've got Tony Topping with us, and he's come all the way from Yorkshire to be with us, so we're really delighted because he's made it through the rain. So I'm going to introduce you to Tony Topping, and we're going to hear some very extraordinary things. Thank you. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Welcome to Amash.
Hello. You remind me of one of those big BBC newscasters or Sky. You know, you've missed your way, you know. You do something like Bolton and Co. or something like that. Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, yes, hello, I'm here. Thank God. There we go.
You had a bit of a rough time getting here,
yes,
didn't you?
I did.
Tony, you've got so much that you've gone through and been through, and it's very difficult to find somewhere to start. So perhaps we could just do the thing of starting at the beginning. You were born and...
Yeah, well, I was born and, yeah. I mean, you know, I was saying earlier on the bus, I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm going to turn up here, I'm going to do this for your organisation. And I've got nothing to say. What do I say?
Oh, Lord,
and then you sit, yeah, exactly, and then you sit here and you just start, you know, don't you? And so, I mean, you know, at the age of 2, I had my first paranormal experience, and it was like walking, it was like seeing something walk through a wall. Now, I specifically remember what that was. I don't talk about it, but I know what it was. And now, in all the years ahead, I do realise that it was something not human that was making its presence felt even at that age with me.
Yes, and was the presence, were you aware even as a little one that it had an energy to it, kindness,
this did not have an energy to it. It didn't have a malevolence to it either. It was just something that happened where what we got, probably the theme of the conversation, I think when I emailed you, was all about signal from noise.
Indeed.
Wasn't it?
Indeed,
so what this interaction was, it's all about signal, and it's all about signals in time, and it's all about the effect of those signals on ourselves as people.
Yeah, and the seeding of the consciousness as well,
and the seeding of the consciousness. It is indeed the seeding of the consciousness, and very crucial to get that point. So I saw this thing walk through a wall. I can see myself now. I remember crying at my father, and my father going, "Oh, there's nothing there, don't be silly." I can see him now putting me in my cot. Excuse me.
And that must have been really...
It's not easy. It's just not easy now.
Really frightening.
It wasn't such frightening, but I remember, you know, the situation there where I'm trying to tell my dad what I've seen, and my father's putting me in the cot and he's saying that there's nothing there. I can see it now. And I also bit my tongue as well, because I had odd teeth. We came from a poor family. We had no money. We even had an outside toilet from 1970 until 1981.
Well, hey, you know what? One of my school friends.
Oh, exactly. But we had a Victorian. I've phrased that wrong. We had an outside toilet, didn't we all? What I meant to say was we were living in Victorian conditions. We didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have heating in the house. We were struggling. My father was a baker, and we were very poor. And as a result of that, I got severely bullied at school because of all that. I came from a very poor family, and my parents looked poor. Right. And so there would be. I
mean, and that has its own difficulties and traumas as well.
It certainly does, and it ended up with me being severely bullied and all that kind of thing. And there were, you know, I've been called everything from a gypsy to the N-word, spat at, bullied. It's just been my childhood was horrendous. So at 2 years of age, I saw that stuff walking through a wall. And then I was, you know, I had the strange dreams, the constant strange dreams.
And did they start from a little one?
Yes, they started from about 4 years of age, these dreams, and they were all about a set theme. They were all about everything that has happened to me started in 1970, and I've been tracked since then, because it's all about signal in time. It is all about it's all about awareness in time. Yeah.
Let's just pick that up. Yeah. What age would you have been in 1970?
I was born in 1970, so 1973. Oh, you're right. 1973 would have probably been the time when I had my first paranormal incident.
Right.
Can't remember anything apart from the fact that I was awoken by strange nightmares and all that constantly as a child. Right. And this, of course, and I would also be seeing people looking at me when I used to close my eyes or awake at night. I'd look up at the ceiling, and there'd be what I would describe as people. That's all you can describe it as, looking down on you. And it was just such an odd scenario. You know, a friend of my father's said, "Oh well, you must be psychic. Your son's psychic." I mean, my father was potently psychic. He used to give me headaches if I was naughty. He would actually, he would, he would. I'd be 7 years, 8, 9 years of age. If I was naughty, he would project and I would end up with a headache, and I'd be flat out on the bed.
And how would he do that?
He just did it. He just did what he did.
Did he tell you he was going to do that?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've seen him. Somebody he didn't like. I've seen him get him off a ladder. You know, he's threatened to do somebody in on a ladder. They nearly fell off. Right. I've seen him heal a cat. Right. I mean, there was a cat that was at death's door. He brought that back to life. Somebody with severe neuralgia. This woman who was probably in her 30s, late 30s, she came into the house crying in pain, and my father would heal hands on her, and she would, and it went. So the theme of psychic goings on and the themes of the paranormal.
So was his back? Did he talk about why he might have been so psychic himself?
No, he didn't. We know.
What about Mum?
Mum, no, Mum's not been psychic. Although my mother has had a UFO incident in about 1999. She had a UFO incident where she opened the curtain windows to see one of them hovering outside the window, well, up in the air, looking at her. And she said that she awoke to see somebody also looking at her in her bedroom, like a tall fella, looking at her.
And has your dad had the UFO experience?
No,
as well?
my father didn't believe in them.
Really?
No, he didn't believe in them. No, he didn't. And the kind of like the situation with my father was he just didn't believe any of that at all. Yeah. And he never dabbled in any of that. But he was potently psychic, you know. And I have seen him, the cat and the woman with neuralgia, with his hands on healing.
Would you? Is there any Celtic in the background?
I'm Scottish on my mother's side, and there is.
Just it seems to feature quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. We're Norman. I mean, we're Norman, and I think that there is another reason as well, because I've targeted the extent I've been is because I'm probably bloodline as well.
So we were just talking about your lineage, your heritage.
Yes. So I've reason to suspect that the targeting certain individuals who are targeted by the paranormal at extreme levels, i.e. like myself, and I've had the UFOs coming over the house and all that kind of thing. I'm
just going to stop you 1 second there. The word targeted, it comes up quite a bit, and the only reason I'm stopping you there is to just look at that word a bit. By targeting, are you saying that there is an external energy that has, seen the little light that you are, or the big light, and zeroed in?
It
and
absolutely has, yeah, that is absolutely correct. Yes, it has. You could call it energy, but it's intelligence.
Yes.
It's highly intelligent. Yeah. It's clever.
Because this is quite a common theme. Do you think that this has come from a pre-life? So, for instance, even before your incarnation... Yes, you are trapped from a pre-life, It will happen. Now, people will say, well, I don't believe in reincarnation.
the gist of the matter was that I went into that and I studied the occult. And
did your dad? By the
Sorry?
way? Did your dad study the occult?
No,
right.
he was
He
a healer,
Right.
and he didn't study the occult, but I did. I mean, I started doing
just
spells. I
wondered with his
mean,
particular
you know, I
powers
mean,
and
I
gifts.
cast a love spell on this girl who I really liked, and it ended up with the opposite effect happening, and a girl who I didn't like turning up on my doorstep asking me for a date.
Yeah, naughty man.
Naughty man,
You
aren't
naughty
I?
man, slap
Yes,
wrists.
yes, yeah, that's it. The occult is a path to nowhere. It certainly is.
Well, I wouldn't advocate
Certainly,
it myself.
no.
but, you know.
Intention is the power of the universe. It absolutely is. It's intent, not the occult, that drives things. So,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
going off piece slightly, you've got all these secret societies with their symbolism and all their, all this kind of thing.
All tools
And
and factors.
and you don't need it because it's the intent.
Yeah.
The intent of the human being is like a god. He's godlike.
Yes,
you know,
yeah,
and a
yeah.
lot of people don't realise. Humanity in general, I don't think realises that.
We haven't got a clue.
No, we haven't. No,
Not
no.
that
No,
much.
we've been dumbed down. We've definitely been dumbed down.
I mean, things
yeah.
like, just again, slightly off topic, and people may not like it, but things like The Secret and Greg Braden's work, and,
Yes.
and a lot of, there's some fantastic material
Yeah.
out now that are now tools
Yeah.
that are placed in the marketplace
Yes.
for people to
The
dip
thing
into.
with it,
because we're not
Yes.
used to it.
No, we're
thinking
not
like
used
that,
to it.
We don't
no.
appreciate
The,
it.
what is of concern though is for us as a race of people, as human beings who are being visited by off-world visitors, who are having interaction with intelligences that are advanced, that are not even part of our time frame or are even from our future, which is a very important thing to know, is that we have to realise that we are being A, dumbed down, but B, we have to realise that the forces around us that dumb us down, the ferocity of what they may do to us, cannot be underestimated. So while they're all thinking about the Ashtar command and the latest thing from that, and it's all love, light and peace, I can guarantee you in real life with the UFO situation and the involvement of the intelligence around that, a very different story is painted that is not in the books. It's not in the UFO research books that you would see, and it talks of us going down a line of time, which is what it's about, and a signal, and what it's all about is about a line of time, from my point of view, and signal, and that signal, as it changes into a conscious reality, which could manifest on us, and that is the crucial thing.
Hold that thought, because that's really important. I want
Yeah.
to explore that a little bit later
Yeah.
on. I just want to go back again to your earlier.
I keep wandering
life.
off piste.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's important. It's all important stuff. But I just
Yeah.
want us to. I
Yeah.
want to have this
Yeah.
progression.
We're going from A to Z, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, sort of,
Yeah,
but-
we
but
are.
more or
yeah.
less
Of
we
course,
can
of
diddle
course.
about on the-
If I go
on
off
the way.
piste, just prompt me. Get the hook and just drag me. As they do on the stage on comedies.
Yeah.
Like they do in
So
yeah.
11 we were talking about was when you were beginning to get into the occult.
Indeed.
You were having
yes,
casting
indeed.
spells.
And of course the occult, casting spells, but of course the occult opens doorways into the mind because you're dealing with energy, and we
And
don't
dimensions.
understand. Yes, and we do not understand how our mind reacts to these dimensions and all that kind of thing. So I started having nightmares and having awful bad luck, which is what happens. And the mind isn't firewalled correctly to this kind of thing,
No.
and it ends up
And that's a
with
very
all
good
kinds of
term,
problems. Yeah,
firewall.
it is. The mind does not
Yeah.
have a firewall against this kind of thing, and so. It became a bit of a nightmare for me, and at 16 I left school. I had a very, very difficult teenage time. When I was a teenager, very, very difficult growing up, and stage school was where I was set on. Now, you know, I'm in a job. I left school and I got a job. My school life was atrocious. I was severely bullied.
Right.
Not-
So we're still in
we're
Yorkshire.
still in Yorkshire. We're still at the
Yeah.
high school, and we're still at the primary school. And you know, it made there was a teacher at the Selby Abbey Primary School that made my life a living hell.
Right.
And then there was, so it's been this horrendous pattern. In those years of abuse, constant abuse, it never stops, it never lets up. Where I've been bullied, I've been, my school life was horrendous, and I set my heart. 16 years of age, I managed to get a job, and I worked there. Worked in this job at the local authority for a number of years, for about 12 years or something. I think there was yeah, it would have been. It was quite a number of years I worked there, and I ended up going into severe depression. I set my heart on stage school, and I got into stage school.
So you went into
Yes.
depression because you
Because I wasn't being
fulfilled.
fulfilled, and I set my heart on acting, and so I went to the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts, which is churning out some good talent today, which is absolutely fabulous. They churn out some of the best people you'll see in the TV and radio today.
Right.
Will probably come from Alra, you know, but some of us went to the Welsh Academy, didn't they? Yeah, yes, but yeah, yeah, but you know, so it's nice to see, and before, and the thing is that is, but I remember before going to Alra to audition that I had my first real UFO incident. which was,
So what year are we in now?
91.
So we're in 91.
91, and I'm just coming back from a rehearsal, and
Right.
I've took my heart and soul. At the moment, no UFO stuff's happening.
Right.
Nothing really kind of freaky is happening. My God, it will, but it's not at the moment.
And so from 11 years old till 21,
Yeah.
you've sort of been into the cult, finished with
Yeah,
it.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
And nothing really much is going. But there's always this sense of being watched by something that you don't
really?
understand. And as a child, I'd stand there just looking at thin air, thinking, "What's that there? There's something in the air. There's something beyond that. Something beyond the veil of the nothingness that we're seeing." You know.
Yeah, and you could just sense.
And I could just sense that. And I mean, at the age of 10, I was awoken in my bed at the age of 10 with the sound of demonic laughter and all that kind of thing. Horrendous goings on.
So did you have again in childhood a lot of paranormal activity around
Absolutely, yeah. There was a lot of that going on, and I could not comprehend it.
What about your dad? Was he able to handle it?
No. My father wasn't. My father was a very difficult man to get on with and deal with, and I don't know. I've some deep regrets about that, but you can't.
No, I just wondered about.
Yeah, no,
with
you
the
can't.
Paranormal.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
And so, and the paranormal stuff. And so, in '91, when I'd come back from rehearsal, I'm walking into the house, and I looks up in the air, and there's this bloody thing over the roof, like something out of Close Encounters, all flashing lights. You know,
what did it look like?
Have you seen Close Encounters?
Yes.
Have you seen the mini UFOs that come over the railway gates? There's a railway gate, famous scene in Close Encounters where there's police cars chasing them, something like that.
Right.
All flashing lights, they're gone. And I thought to, and it was just like that, a split second.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I thought to myself, what the hell is that? And
was it of some size, or do you remember?
It was of probably the size of a little smaller than a Boeing, probably the size. It was, but it was there, and then it was gone. And little did I know in the years ahead, my God. But anyway, at this point, that is what was happening.
So did that surprise you?
Well, it's so much surprise, it kept me wondering, and I'm thinking, did I see it, didn't I? Did I see it, didn't I? And my mind was trying to comprehend what I saw. And little would I know that years and years down the line, that I'd end up having military helicopters film me, the bloody things chasing me, people following me. But that's yet to come. So we're at 91 at the moment, and I went to stage school. I was lucky enough to get into stage school. It was a big thing for me. As we discussed earlier. And I found that heavy going stage school. I was like a violin player. I could play my violin, I could act, I could sing, I could dance, I could really play it. And then I go to stage school and the strings break. And I never pick up the violin since. And I've always wanted to get back into acting, especially acting for TV. And it's something that I'm gonna look at. I think I need to work on those issues. And so it ended up with me going to stage school and then leaving stage school, and nothing much happened in stage school years.
Right.
Nothing.
For how long?
Not a year. It was a
1
year.
year.
Yeah, 1 year, and nothing much happened. And I lived in London for 6 years in total.
Right.
And nothing much happened. Really, until about 1994, when things started really to go odd. And I remember I was working in an office, and they'd moved to Cheltenham, and so I moved to a place in Orpington in Kent.
Okay. Yeah.
And it ended up with some very strange goings on, where we'd have these strange balls of light at tremendous speed coming over the house, really high in the sky.
This is where you were living?
This is where I was living. I was living on friends' floors. I didn't have a roof over my head at the time.
Yeah.
And these things were coming in at speed. Really were, and I'm thinking, what the hell's all that about? And there was this feeling of, and I mean, they were following me everywhere, these bloody things, and they were capable of just stopping to a dead stop and then zipping off again, which is common, which is what they do, and there was odd things going on with the dog.
Was there anything that started these, precipitated?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right.
Oh, but there was. You see, what they're observing is history.
Right.
So what I have not done and what I'm going to do, they've already seen.
Right.
It's a tricky conundrum, but that is my kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That is my take on it. They're observing history through time. It's not about me being the alien ambassador, or me being the chosen one, or me being taken aboard a craft and shown what it's all about by them. They're observing history they're observing our history. They're observers of history, some of them, and some of them are geneticists. Some of them are
So these balls,
hybrid integrators.
Do you think they were probes? Do you think
These we'll come on to that, because we'd be jumping way ahead.
Okay.
Those balls of light, I discovered what they were. It took me years, and I discovered it. What I believe I discovered to be the correct definition of what they were, which we'll come to. We can certainly come to that.
So how long did this go on for?
So this went on. This went on for a number of weeks, and
what was the frequency of it? Once a week,
once a week, something like that. I mean, and then the first real UFO thing happened when I was walking down Ladbroke Grove in Paddington, and down a place called Parade Street, and I looked at and I looked up in the sky, and I saw this kind of thing that was not an aircraft. Aircraft have strobe sequence. This was like a car headlight in the sky that just suddenly opened up like that, closed off, and I thought it was going to crash into a block of flats, and I was holding my breath thinking, oh my days, that's going to go into a block of flats, and it didn't. It didn't do anything, it just vanished. And I'm thinking,
was
that's
that again
odd.
quite momentary, as you were describing
it was very momentary and sudden. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and then I started having the very odd strange dreams that went with it. I started having strange dreams in the flat I was living in Streatham, and strange dreams in Orpington. It was all to do with interaction with the UFOs.
Right,
that was going on.
At that time then that you were having these dreams, had anything else happened or manifested around you, or anybody new in your life that could cause anything? It
was just their sudden. Yes, it was just their sudden appearance. That's correct. And I've reason to suspect that they were observing history. That it's a signal in time. Every event is a signal on a timeline. That's my take on it. That history is time, and that awareness, our consciousness, are events in time.
So you're maturing. You were triggering, or perhaps you yourself were triggering those events by just maturing.
That's it. So precisely. So it may be that I've yet to do something that they're already fully aware of, but I'm not.
So these dreams, then, just going back to those.
So these dreams.
Tell us again.
Well, I mean, the dreams were of just strange visions of craft flying everywhere, pyramid visions, absolutely bananas. I didn't understand any of it. I couldn't understand it at all.
Did they bother you?
They bothered the dog. I mean, the dog would go berserk. I mean, the terrier that I was looking after, little Westie, would go.
When they went over?
Oh, hell yeah! It'd go absolutely bananas. And I mean, there was one particular evening where you see, when you have these things speak to you, everybody thinks that you hear them in your head, you know, and you don't hear them in your head. As a lot of contact experiences would agree and concur, you don't hear these voices in your head. You hear them outside of yourself. They're outside of you. You'll know about it if they're speaking to you.
I've had an experience.
You
not
probably
of speaking,
have,
but of music. Actually.
Yes, music's a popular one that they will do, like a quadraphonic amplified sound that's like no other. It's definitely, it is. I've had that experience myself, and it's an honour to. It's very nice that you've had that experience as well.
I feel it was a gift. Actually, I haven't hardly ever told anybody about that.
They kind of like they will play our track of music. They will play a guitar sequence that's our version, which sounds quite mono compared to theirs, which sounds a very amazing quadraphonic. In my experience, quadraphonic sound. Absolutely incredible. So I've gone off piece now. Remind me,
so the dog's going mad.
The dog's going mad.
So
that's it. Yes.
I'm just going. Are there many of these things going overhead?
No, there'll only be one or two, and the dog's going mad. And all of a sudden you hear this thing, this whatever, this...
Is there any sound to these things?
No, there's no sound. No. But you'll hear them definitely go. I mean, you'll hear...
Buzzing, humming, nothing?
Nothing, no, other than...
Vibration, feeling?
No,
Sensing?
No, nothing like that. You'll just hear a voice. You'll just definitely hear a voice going...
So you're alerted by a voice?
Yes, that's it. So you're alerted by a voice that isn't internal, it's external.
Yeah,
so you understand, So you've got a voice that says, why don't you tell that bloody dog to shut up? Now, I was shocked by that. And I'm thinking... All right, okay. What's all that? And the poor dog was going nuts on the landing. It would stand on the landing when these things were coming over, and it would just bark its ruddy head off, and it would know that something was. So cut a long story short, I left London, went back to Yorkshire, little knowing of the absolute traumatic, at times unethical, disgraceful, shocking. Unpleasant insightful, uplifting, perceptive, brave, knowledgeable events that would happen. You know, or yeah, it's a lot of words, isn't it? Because you know, I'd like to think that the interactions that I've had are leading somewhere for me to learn what these things are about.
Sure.
I wouldn't like to think that they're all about unethical intrusion into our minds as a human being.
Yeah.
And I ask myself constantly, Dr. Stephen Greer, as an example, will say that there's peaceful interstellar interaction going on with peaceful alien groups and all that kind of thing. And I'd like to, from my experiences of nearly 30 years of dealing with this, I'd like to think that that was the case. But my experiences tell me otherwise, and it's a reality that cannot be brushed under the, under the carpet. And so I returned back to Yorkshire in '96.
Right,
and that's when all hell began to start.
Okay, so but during those times of 94, 96, you were having these flybys or flyovers.
Yes, no idea what they were about, no idea why.
Did they continue for quite a few weeks?
They continued for quite a few weeks, and then they just went as quietly as they'd come, they'd gone.
Right, okay.
And I after some significant study of this, and it took me years to suss out what was going on.
Right.
I'll come to that later. We'll
so
go
life took you back to Yorkshire?
Yes, life took me back to
26.
Yorkshire, 26, and I'm stood outside in July 1996, and I'm stood outside the house, and I'm looking up in the air, and all of a sudden these two balls of light just come in like this, and merge as one, and then there's this orange flash. Big orange flash. It woke my mother up. She said, "What was that flash? Was it lightning?"
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And then next minute, I know something whizzes past me to the right.
Where were you? Sorry,
I was in my garden when this
right,
happened.
okay.
Something whizzes past me to the right, and it said, "I just heard this voice go, hello," like that. Nothing more. Hello. Yeah.
Is this voice English?
Oh, they speak fluent English.
I mean, does it have an accent?
No, no accent. No, but they've studied English. Anybody that they launch these Voyager probes into the sky and
so
want
it's a bit
to.
of an RP accent, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's lovely. Yeah. Yes, it's a bit of
RP.
RP. Yes, lovely. It is. Yeah. They've studied our languages. They're not.
The Queen's English.
They have indeed. They've studied quite. They've studied RP. Yes, they have. Yes, yes, lovely. They have, darling.
Excellent.
They've studied RP. Yes, and the vowel
Very
sounds
funny.
as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. A-E-I-O-U.
So this English.
It was English. Yeah, it was
No,
English.
it's just
but
interesting because people hear different tones and different
what
things,
can
different
happen with
accents.
them though is that which is quite an uplifting experience is that because I talk a bit about the negative stuff and really we should be talking a bit about the uplifting stuff as well.
Sure.
Because what will happen is I only a few months
Well, as you
back,
say, intention is everything.
Intention is everything. Yeah. A few years ago, I mean, I had an experience where they came in over the house. And I knew what they were, I knew who they were, and I knew that they were here. And all of a sudden, you look up in the sky and just get this flash, and then the kind of like the presence of them. The sky goes still, the air goes still. There's cars going past, people going by, but as far as you're concerned, it's all stillness. And you get them whizzing round, and they're using a technology that we have no idea really how to conceptualise. We don't, and we won't have in future history as well. Have really any idea about the technology. I think mankind will be struggling to understand their technology even in the years ahead. I think.
So let's just pick up that story where you had the balls.
Yeah, so the balls
together,
like
became one big ball.
Yes,
Woke your mum
that's
up.
it. Woke me mum up, and the thing flew past and said hello. That's it. And I mean, I've had incidents happen where I've had it's nice to see you. We'll see you again.
Male, female voice.
Male and female.
Yeah.
You know, I've had things happen to me that are absolutely unbelievable. I've even got to laugh myself because if you didn't, you'd cry.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've had real off the wall things happen with these objects that have been coming in, over my house. Yeah.
So
we're not alone.
Yeah. So you're having these.
Yeah.
These experiences then, and then what's happening?
So we're
for
at
you?
96 at the moment, and I've had this experience of it, and I'm wandering round. I wandered round for a period of months in shock because I couldn't believe what was happening to me.
Could you talk about it to anybody else?
Well, I went to a healer and I talked about it, and she was just as baffled as I was about it. And little did I know that this was all gearing up to all hell breaking loose. But I wouldn't know that, and it would break loose. But at the moment, from 96 to about 99, I can't quite remember what happened because I didn't log anything.
Right.
So, but I did keep a log from about 1999 till about 2004. I think something like that, and it's pretty heavy, and it's very confidential. I don't really one day I might put it up on the net for people. But I think that there's no point in putting up something like that if people cannot comprehend or understand.
No. So we'll tease out first of all, bit by bit, you know, and we'll get to some of these points. And if you think something's important, you know, perhaps we can mention the odd thing or two without sort of making you uncomfortable in any way.
Yeah.
So these things are happening, and so 96 to 99.
Yeah.
Not so clear, but you're probably having sightings if the patterns are continuing.
There was stuff going on. I mean, have you seen the film Inception?
I haven't. No,
you've not seen the film.
No.
Have you seen the film by Jennifer Lopez called The Face? Have you ever seen that film?
I don't think I've even seen that
Each situation deals, the film plot, especially in Inception, which is like the paranormal espionage that I've had to study. I've had to study that, which you'll probably go into. But the fact is that you're like your mind is in a dreamscape. It's in a landscape.
Right.
The awareness is in a landscape, and it's being intercepted by something. It's being manipulated. It's being explored. It's being looked at, and that's the kind of thing that many of these contact experiences or abductees are actually feeling. And the other key factor to this, which might not be written about in UFO books, is the fact that this is all about signal in time. What we're getting is an inception.
And what do you mean about that?
I mean that our reality as human beings has an impact on us now and into the future, and that is being observed by these advanced UFO intelligences and possibly intercepted and altered. In a way, they're altering time. In a way, they're altering events. And what we're seeing is perhaps interception points in our future, looking back at us as human beings. These intelligences that are perhaps abducting people or giving contactees uncomfortable experiences may in fact be from an advanced point in our history, but are still alien. It's a very freaky thing to get the mind around, but there's a possibility that is what the root cause of the problem is. Some sort of event has happened in history further down our timeline. The human race has a future timeline, and I do believe that those events are feeding back at us, pinging back at us at a rate of knots.
Well, that's interesting, because I think both Miles and I think...
and there was a famous doctor called Dr. Carla Turner, who died mysteriously, who also indicated that there's perhaps a biological adjustment going on within the human species to accept and deal with this reality as a matter of a development of our species, like we would learn to walk, run. You know, do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a biological awareness, a development within us that is happening.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because also if you think of people like Lloyd Pye's work, who does the Star Child project, absolutely fantastic. His work on the human development says we are the only species with 4,000 and maybe more not abnormalities, potential conditions, problems, you know, aspects of our biology that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. Most species would have maybe 100 or 200 potentialities, but we've got 4,000, which speaks of engineering.
Definitely so.
You know,
this is definitely correct, and the engineering is continuing.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
And our kind of the alarm bells are ringing. And the alarm bells aren't ringing now in our time in November 2011. They're ringing, the alarm bells are ringing back at us in probably, I don't know, 21, 24, 22, 30. They're all the way down the line. The alarm bells are ringing about what we're doing now. You know, for example, Libya, the situation in Afghanistan, Iran, America becoming a warlike Roman Empire and neglecting its people to such an extent that they're homeless and starving. Our Prime Minister David Cameron, for example, our world leaders not realising the actions that they're doing and not having the balls to stand up against those darker forces that are manipulating our reality.
Well, maybe that's because they're part of it.
No, I don't think they are. No, I don't think they are. No, I don't. I think a lot of them are aware. I know I appeared on the Kevin Smith show a few months back. Kevin Smith, you're aware, Kevin, Yeah. He said to me that there was a number of people who were very well known, including members of the royal family, was quite aware of this manipulation that went on. And so the force that lurks behind us, the scenes that manipulates us as a race of human beings, is very present, very there, and very real. And elements of our government, elements of our military, especially the US government in the 1950s, were quite aware of this.
Yes,
they're very aware.
Sure.
And so I wasn't aware of this, and so it began in 1999 for me, where I started having a real knocks on the door and the volume of these situations really escalating on me.
And again, was there something, Tony, that sort of precipitated that moving?
There probably was, but I wasn't aware of it, and whatever it was may have already happened or could have happened, and they're coming back and looking at events in history.
Right, so tell me the first thing that got your attention in 1999 to say things were ramping up.
Things were ramping up is when I started getting phone calls. And things were ramping up when I started getting phone calls. I mean, it was quite common for me to pick up the phone and somebody go, "Shut up!" You know, just like that down the phone, and the phone goes down.
Really?
You know, oh hell yeah. Quite common to be followed. Quite common to be followed.
For no apparent reason.
For no apparent reason. I mean, it was quite common, and this was leading up to something, because what had happened was I began filming them. Sorry.
Right. Let me just go back. Phone calls.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the technical details. How many per week, per day, per?
I never logged them. Which
more than
I
once
kicked
a
myself.
week?
Oh, it was more than once a week. It was absolutely more than once a week. Yeah.
So several times a week.
Oh yeah.
And was it always? Could you ring back the number?
No. You couldn't ring back the number. And this is when my private war began.
Right.
With what I thought were the people who were harassing me.
Hang on to that. So the phone calls, did they abate, or were they just a continuous harassment?
They were continuous. They were absolutely continuous.
And do they continue even now?
No, they don't. No, the phone calls. Although I do occasionally and have received. There was something that happened to me which I can't go into.
No, that's fine.
It was something that I did. It was something that I really can't talk about. But basically, it's all about the misuse of the intention of power.
Right.
You know.
Okay. So
and the consequences of that. And I got a text message on my phone in reference to that. In reference to something I'd done. And it was quite clear what the text message said. And it was quite clear that they knew what I'd done, and that's what gets a lot of people. The more perceptive individual goes, "How in God's name did they know?
Absolutely.
How did they know? How did they know, for example, that I was having the UFOs over the house before I did? They did. They knew. They definitely knew.
Yes.
And it was a covert agency or a covert intelligence apparatus within the state of Britain that was aware of the UFO situation. And I put my website up in 1999. It was a complete load of bollocks. I'm never happy with the website I've got now, actually. Although I think it's a lot of people say it's great, but I'm never happy with it. But anyway,
so 99.
In 1999.
You started getting the calls, and were you shocked by that?
There's more fun to come, because it's not just the calls.
Were you surprised at those? So we're starting with the calls.
Yes, I was surprised at getting the phone calls, but that's all because I put this site up on the internet called ET Life.
You attribute getting the calls down to your becoming more active. Somebody
who had got a background in Northern Ireland in Army intelligence. It was quite surprising what they'd come out with, and they basically said, like, what the website you've got up is going to bring people out the woodwork. You're going to get noticed, because something must have been in that website what I'd written, and I classed it as, at the time, looking back, as a complete load of tosh. Right. But what I'd done, but crucially, what was up there was the UFOs that I'd filmed. And I classed them as my primary UFO incidents that happened in 1999. And it was as a result of those UFO incidents in 1999 where the same object had been following me and tracking me and God knows where else and watching me.
And was there communication with
There absolutely is communication. Yeah. There is to this day with it. Yes, indeed there is. Yeah. And I make no apology for it either, but there is communication with it. And it's taken me years. I don't understand why they're so slow. Or are they slow, or are they observing history? I'm not too sure with them. going to be recording. Helicopter came over last time. Bit concerned really because obviously there was air traffic in the area, so I was a bit of concern, but we're going to attempt to record them again. The date being today is the 25th of the 4th.
So just so we get some sort of coherence, because there's so much I know you have to say. So you've been having the phone calls, you've put up the website, you've had the phone calls, and then you said something about getting knocks on the door. What? Tell us about that.
I mean...
Or is that we mean metaphorically?
Metaphorically. I mean, for example, in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, the CIA and the British and the Canadians, they developed MK Ultra.
Yes.
They developed technology that would assault the mind.
And MK Ultra,
MK Ultra, it was actually like an assassination program.
Yes,
to mind control.
Yeah.
And I always parallel myself, and that people go, oh my God, he's a fantasist. Oh my God, listen to him now. I always parallel myself with Jason Bourne. The character, and the reason why is because the Bourne trilogies, and the reason why is because he's a man who is up against he's up against a situation he doesn't understand, but it's the mindset against him that is venomous. It's absolutely. I mean, there's the third Bourne film where the poor journalist gets hit in Waterloo Station, and they have no scruples at all. Those people who were targeting Bourne, no scruples whatsoever.
So
and
you
that's
see
what
yourself as that?
Yeah, and this is what was going. This is what was happening. They developed Treadstone in the film. They developed Treadstone in the film. It came in, and then Treadstone is actually something called Blackbriar. Yeah, it's covert operations of mind control.
Yeah.
And this is what I was getting hit with. It began in 1999 and it didn't bloody stop. And that's what, and I, if you can imagine the, I don't know if you can imagine being awoken at 3 in the morning by artificially delivered technology, but it's not a good thing.
No,
you cannot comprehend it.
And when you say artificially delivered technology,
we're talking some kind
microwave, radio wave,
some type of deliverable radio technology that interfered with me in such a way that you'd hear sound effects, gunfire, screaming, especially at 3 in the morning when they'd hit pretty hard, and you'd think...
So you'd be getting a series of different sounds.
Oh yeah, you'll be getting a series of different sounds.
Would you be getting a narrative?
You'll be getting a narrative, you'll be told not to do this, not to do that, not to do the other.
Can you tell us what not to do, what they were telling you not to do?
No, I'd rather not. Right, no, I will keep it. Just keep it where we are at the moment. I don't want to just lower the energy. But so what they'd do is they'd be intercepting. They'd be causing an Inception style kind of event in your mind that would be telling you to, for example, go and throw yourself off the bridge. Do us a favour. Do this to yourself. Do that to yourself. Go here. Go there. It's time you were moving out the house.
Self-harm programming.
Yeah, self-harm programming. All that kind of thing. All deliverable on this kind of artificial technology.
And were you hearing this again?
Absolutely,
in the
yeah.
Right,
you were hearing it in the external, and then you'd couple with that would be the following. The actual physical overt, not covert, overt. What was odd about these people was they were overt in everything they did.
Stalking.
Yeah, they were absolutely overt. They weren't. I mean, if you hear anybody who's experienced,
you're not the first to tell us about
they're up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were coming after me at a rate, and it was all because I had these UFOs coming in, it's actually a UFO, not UFOs, but a particular one that had come in over my house. I narrowed it down, and I realised that all the other associated bullshit that went with it on my YouTube site, I've got balls of light everywhere, I'm sick of filming them, but it can be boiled down to the single event that happened to me in 1999 where the UFO illuminated the television antenna, which you've obviously, I think I've sent it to you, and people can have a look at that. And it went for image analysis, and they put it, the guy who was a former special effects director, he put it under analysis, and he definitely said it was a UFO. It could do manoeuvres that an aircraft couldn't. It illuminated a TV antenna. We're not alone. It is what it is, extraterrestrially intelligent. It's not of this world, and it came in and it came out again. And that's when the harassment really started, and I had helicopters filming me. I mean, I had an incident with a helicopter that it's absolutely unreal. I'm walking home, and all of a sudden, this is at the height of my harassment when I'm getting the phone calls in 1999, I'm getting all the jip that goes with it. The bloody helicopter appears, and it was a Special Forces helicopter, an AS 555. We consulted Jane's Eye, consulted Jane's Defence Weekly about that, and it's an AS555 helicopter.
Do we have them in the UK?
No, the RAF don't use them.
Oh.
It's not in the RAF. The Brazilian, Canada, a few other countries in the US use them, and it was a sliding door variant, which is very unusual, with a winch and a telescope. It was a souped-up helicopter.
So it sounds like maybe there's obviously a collaboration between the Brits and the Americans.
Yeah, there is intelligence gathered on them, and little would I know. I thought that it was the targeting that happened was by human beings, but it was also by something far more sinister, as I discovered. And it's just all a very odd jigsaw.
So do you think
of happenings and events?
Yes. Do you think that you were targeted to impede your research, to put you off,
to dumb me down,
to dumb you down,
to A, dumb me down, and to B, to prevent certain people's inherent ability of intent. If as a human being you can master intent in terms of the esoteric, you have real power. You have very real power. Some of the guys on the remote viewing programs that the US did in 1970, like Joseph McMonigal, Lynn Buchanan. Now, Lynn Buchanan was a guy in question because he brought down, says in an autobiography, that he brought down nearly the whole of NATO's computer systems because he'd got so angry about something, the power of intention, telekinetics, all that kind of thing, and it really pushed things to the limit with him. And he's always said that intention of human beings to alter consciousness, manipulate events, is present, which is why.
And do you think that maybe you were getting near the mark?
Yes, absolutely. I was
realising your own personal power.
I absolutely was.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we can say that they're targeting people who are cusping, let's say, the realisation of their own personal power, and being able to work with it.
I've reason to believe that some of us are being biologically adjusted.
Right. Do you feel you have?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some kind of adjustment going on where part of our reality is to accept these events that are going on around us as part of our species development. I do believe we're evolving into something else. I strongly do believe, however, that we are being observed. We are being observed as historic events. That events are happening, and they are observers. I do strongly believe that.
And the connection that you say, I think I'm right in saying that you have a connection with the particular UFO that has been in your life for so long now. Yeah. Is that a benevolent interaction?
It's one that is genetic. It's one that is it's an unethical interaction, I would class it as, all because one of them is stood there, comes in with a UFO, says, "Hello, I'm from the planet Venus, aren't I lovely? Look at my nice shiny UFO." As the ancient teaching said in something called the Toltec tradition, which I studied, not the teachings of Castaneda. This is a different guy called Tyon Maris. Tyon Maris is called, and he wrote quite a few books. Look him up on the Cry of the Eagle, and a few others. Super. And he talks about UFOs in terms of the Toltec tradition, where he was saying that obviously all because they turn up, they look good and fluffy and lovely, and they say, "Hey, we're from the planet Mars," or whatever, does not mean to say that they understand human rights or are kind of like sympathetic to human rights or will be ethical. There's no reason to say any of that is going to go on with them.
So can we go back to your sort of beginning of understanding of your interaction with this particular UFO? So
it's something I don't talk about. What you've asked me to talk about there is something that, in all the interviews that I do, nobody ever asked me that question. What are they like? What are they about? This, that. And it's something I've really never touched on in any interview I've given. I've always talked about the harassment and the UFOs, but never I
think it's all these are all important things because they're all interlinked.
Yeah, they are, absolutely.
And I know people listening to this and listening to you, you've got a lot of very important things to say, and they would love to know some of the, the nuts and bolts.
They are mainly, they're highly evolved, they're very intelligent. I don't understand them, they're beyond my comprehension. I know that they have certainly studied the current affairs of this planet. They are certainly aware of the mindset that is there within us, that is kind of like psychotic within the human reality, very psychopathic. If you at the moment we have people who are indicating that UFOs are going to deliver us to a new age, a new beginning. We're all going to be saved, and yet you have the mindset of North Korea and China, a psychotic mindset buried deep there, sat there, and just sat there. Developing. China, for example, as a power, is developing. Now they these UFOs with these intelligent people in them, and I class them as people, not aliens, but people, are quite aware of these situations. They're very aware. They're not. They're never.
Do you know where they're from? Which
I mean, well, for
system
Sirius B, for example, is one where they've indicated that they've come from, another
Right.
has indicated that they're from Andromeda. But the rule of thumb is all because they say this, and all because, I mean, if you ever saw one, and I don't know whether you have, if you ever saw them, you get the fright of your bloody life. I know I did, because they're not. They simply don't look human, and yet they are. You know, I mean, if you look at the Russian cosmonauts, you look at the Russian cosmonauts when they went up into space, the height of the Politburo and the Cold War, they were having interactions with them out in space. And I mean, they were describing roughly like the ones I'd seen, where you've got the triangular faces, the pointed, you know, the long blonde hair. You've got some of them who are who have got short, spiky blonde hair, you know, very unique looking, and you've got specifically some of them who are nearly 7 to 6 feet in height, and physique and stature, and you'd really know about it if one of them was sat there in front of you. They're the ones who are geneticists, they're experts, they're the ones who are very intelligent, and they have identified themselves to me as being from another solar system, from another star system.
Yes.
And
have they told you the reason for their interaction with you?
No. And that's where the situation gets, for me, very annoying, because I find it unethical. I find their elusiveness questionable, and I find their intentions untrustworthy. I don't like what I'm seeing there. But there again, they're very wise teachers. They appear to be very wise teachers, but I keep playing this up. I keep thinking, well, they're wise teachers, they're good people, but are they? Yes. Am I being conned? It's disgusting if I am, because I'd like to think that at some point 3 years down the line I could be sat here and saying, yes this, yes that. I mean, wouldn't it be fascinating, I'm no scientist, but wouldn't it be fascinating to sit down with one of them and discuss their folklore? They have folklore, they have history, I mean, they have elders, they have wise...
And have you had any face-to-face meetings?
We've had incidents, drip, drip, drip incidents of them coming into awareness. I mean, I nearly died of fright a few years back where one of them was stood in the bloody room. It's something I don't talk about, but she was stood in the room like someone out of a bloody Amazon movie, frankly. But
and was she fully material?
Oh yeah, she was fully there, 7 feet in height and there, and the interaction is continuing. And make no bones about it, she made that very clear, that it doesn't appear that way at the moment, but it is. It's continuing. They're watchful of world affairs, they're watchful of every step the human race is taking for some reason. And I think it's because of our...
Yeah, we're going to pick this up on session 2.
Oh, okay.
So, thanks very much. See you in session 2.
I've seen him get him off a ladder. You know, he's threatened to do somebody in on a ladder. They nearly fell off. I've seen him heal a cat. I mean, there was a cat that was at death's door. He brought that back to life. Somebody with severe neuralgia. This woman who was probably in her 30s, late 30s, she came into the house crying in pain, and my father would heal hands on her, and she would, and it went. So the theme of psychic goings on and the themes of the paranormal.
So was his back? Did he talk about why he might have been so psychic himself?
No, he didn't. We know.
What about Mum?
No, Mum's not been psychic. Although my mother has had a UFO incident in about 1999. She had a UFO incident where she opened the curtain windows to see one of them hovering outside the window, well, up in the air, looking at her. And she said that she awoke to see somebody also looking at her in her bedroom, like a tall fella, looking at her.
And has your dad had the UFO experience?
No,
as well?
my father didn't believe in them.
Really?
No, he didn't believe in them. No, he didn't. And the kind of like the situation with my father was he just didn't believe any of that at all. Yeah. And he never dabbled in any of that. But he was potently psychic, you know. And I have seen him, the cat and the woman with neuralgia, with his hands on healing.
Is there any Celtic in the background?
It was like walking. It was like seeing something walk through a wall. Now I specifically remember what that was. I don't talk about it, but I know what it was. And now in all the years ahead, I do realise that it was something not human that was making its presence felt even at that age with me. Yes.
And was the presence, were you aware even as a little one that it had an energy to it kindness.
This did not have an energy to it. It didn't have a malevolence to it either. It was just something that happened where what we got, probably the theme of the conversation, I think when I emailed you, was all about signal from noise.
Indeed.
Wasn't it?
Indeed,
So what this interaction was, it's all about signal, and it's all about signals in time, and it's all about the effect of those signals on ourselves as people.
Yeah, and the seeding of the consciousness as well, isn't it? And the seeding of
the consciousness. It is indeed the seeding of the consciousness,
yeah.
And very crucial to get that point. So I saw this thing walk through a wall. I can see myself now. I remember crying at my father, and my father going, "Oh, there's nothing there, don't be silly." I can see him now putting me in my cot. Excuse me.
And that must have been really...
It's not easy. It's just not easy now.
Really frightening.
It wasn't such frightening, but I remember... You know, the situation there where I'm trying a set theme. They were all about everything that has happened to me started in 1970, and I've been tracked since then, because it's all about signal in time.
Right.
It's all about awareness in time. Yeah.
Let's just pick that up.
Yeah.
What age would you have been in 1970?
I was born in 1970, so 1973.
Pardon,
you're right. 1973
right.
would have probably been the time when I had my first paranormal incident.
Right.
Can't remember anything apart from the fact that I was awoken by strange nightmares and all that constantly as a child.
Right.
And this, of course, and I would also be seeing people looking at me when I used to close my eyes or awake at night. I'd look up at the ceiling, and there'd be what I would describe as people. That's all you can describe it as, looking down on you. And it was just such an odd scenario. You know, a friend of my father's said, "Oh well, you must be psychic. Your son's psychic." I mean, my father was potently psychic. He used to give me headaches if I was naughty. He would actually,
really?
Yeah, he would, he would. I'd be 7 years, 8, 9 years of age. If I was naughty, he would project, and I would end up with a headache, and I'd be flat out on the bed.
And how would he do that?
He just did it. He just did what he did.
Did he tell you he was going to do that?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've seen him. Somebody he didn't like.
Hello, and welcome to Amash, another of our interviews here in Hounslow with our lovely Miles. Thank you very much, Miles, for hosting this one. We've got Tony Topping with us, and he's come all the way from Yorkshire to be with us, so we're really delighted because he's made it through the rain. So I'm going to introduce you to Tony Topping, and we're going to hear some very extraordinary things. Thank you. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Welcome to Amash.
Hello. You remind me of one of those big BBC newscasters or Sky. You know, you've missed your way, you know. You do something like Bolton and Co. or something like that. Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, yes, hello, I'm here. Thank God. There we go.
You had a bit of a rough time getting here,
yes,
didn't you?
I did.
Tony, you've got so much that you've gone through and been through, and it's very difficult to find somewhere to start. So perhaps we could just do the thing of starting at the beginning. You were born and...
Yeah, well, I was born and, yeah. I mean, you know, I was saying earlier on the bus, I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm going to turn up here, I'm going to do this for your organisation. And I've got nothing to say. What do I say?
Oh, Lord,
and then you sit, yeah, exactly, and then you sit here and you just start, you know, don't you? And so, I mean, you know, at the age of 2, I had my first paranormal experience, and it was trying to tell my dad what I've seen, and my father's putting me in the cot and he's saying that there's nothing there. I can see it now, and I also bit my tongue as well, because I had odd teeth. We came from a poor family, we had no money, we even had an outside toilet from 1970 until 1981.
Well, hey, you know what? One of my school friends.
Oh, exactly.
But
we had a Victorian. I've phrased that. We had an outside toilet, didn't we all? What I meant to say was we were living in Victorian conditions. We didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have heating in the house. We were struggling. My father was a baker, and we were very poor. And as a result of that, I got severely bullied at school because of all that. I came from a very poor family, and my parents looked poor. Right. And so there would be. I
mean, and that has its own difficulties and traumas as well.
It certainly does, and it ended up with me being severely bullied and all that kind of thing. And there were, you know, I've been called everything from a gypsy to the N-word, spat at, bullied. It's just been my childhood was horrendous. So at 2 years of age, I saw that stuff walking through a wall. And then I was, you know, I had the strange dreams, the constant strange dreams.
And did they start from a little one?
Yes, they started from about 4 years of age, these dreams, and they were all about